This podcast contains spoilers, explicit language, and is not made for anyone under the age of 13. Listener discretion is advised. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to John vs. Film, and today we are taking a look at 1996 Gamera 2, Legion Shuai, also known as Gamera 2, Attack of the Legion, or as I like to call it, Advent of Legion, because I think that is a much cooler title than Attack of the Legion. So throughout the rest of this podcast, I'm going to just call it Advent of Legion. This movie is directed by Shusuke Kaneko and Kazunori Ito, just like the previous movie and the movie coming up next. And yeah, this is the second movie in the Gamera Trilogy. This time we have the Monster Legion, or as you know, it's pronounced here, Legion. Legion. Again, I gotta practice my Japanese as much as I can. But anyway, so how things work on John vs. Film, I give you a little synopsis of the movie that I wrote up, and then I talk about 5 things I like. Then I go into 5 things I dislike or have criticisms of, and then I wrap it all up with my overall thoughts. Alright. Without further ado, let's jump in. Oh, well, first of all, I want to mention that some cameos that are in this movie are particularly one. And that would be, let me go down the list. I just want to emphasize of just how much of fans they are of the tokusatsu genre, and that is they actually have Akiji Kobayashi, as a cameo, and he is a notable actor as he has played major roles in both Ultraman and Kamen Rider in the original series of both. In Ultraman, he was, if you watch Ultraman, you know him from, as being Captain Muramatsu. But for Kamen Rider fans, you would know him as Tobei Tachibana, the owner of the racing club, that the original Kamen Rider Ichigo uses, as kind of like, and also Kamen Rider Nigo. It's like it was the original hangout, I guess would be the best way to say it, of a lot of Kamen Rider and Kamen Rider allies for the original series, and he also has reappeared a lot in the Kamen Rider series as sort of a mentor figure for later Kamen Riders. And he is also in 2 Godzilla movies, particularly Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah and Godzilla vs. Mothra. And so this makes him one of the few actors that has starred in all, I guess the really big 4 tokusatsu genres, or at least what would be considered the big 4 here in the States, just of Gamera, Godzilla, Ultraman, Kamen Rider. That's kind of a notable thing for an actor to appear in all 4. And this was like his second to last role before he passed away. And real quick, another appearance. This one is not a cameo, but it's really cool. Is we got Hatsunori Hasegawa as Satake. He was Satake is like kind of a military general, but the actor is known for playing Takeshi Yamato, or also known as Ultraman 80, Ultraman 80. So he came to us from the stars. He came to us from the stars. Well, anyway, I'm a big Ultraman fan, so I had to point out these Ultraman actors. And of course, we have, shoot, I forgot his name. Uh, duh, 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 duh. Hang on. I'm pretty sure he appears in all three movies, but I mentioned him in the last episode. Shoot. I'm horrible with names. I'm sorry. And I am like, okay, there we go. Hiroyuki Watanabe, he still plays this like kind of a military officer. We don't really get a name for his character, I believe. But yeah, anyway, sorry for the side track. Again, I just had to let my Ultraman fan of me go out. So uh, I should save that for when I talk about Ultraman. Because I will be doing the Ultraman movies eventually. I am like sort of waiting for when Shin Ultraman is announced for a US release. I am hopeful it gets a home release that's not streaming. But anyway, as also I hope by the time this episode comes out, we will know about Shin Ultraman's release. So just as an FYI, I'm recording this way ahead of time before this episode comes out. So anything that new happens, I will probably already know it, but I'm obviously just not gonna, edit in to the podcast. I like to kind of treat my podcast sort of like a live stream. If I goof up, I goof up. It's whatever. But anyways, this is John versus Film, and I'm supposed to be talking about a movie right now, and that's Advent of Legion. So anyway, without me getting distracted by Ultraman stuff once again, here's the synopsis I wrote up. Ready? Here we go. After Gauss was defeated in the last movie, Japan has developed a major insect infestation. Wow, that was horrible. One more time. We're going to start one more time. Okay, ready? After Gauss was defeated in the last movie, Japan has developed a major infestation from space. Wow, I really had trouble saying infestation. Anyway, Gamera will have to act as the planet's exterminator, but he may need help from humanity in order to do so. Can Gamera save the Earth? Well, I'm pretty sure he does. In fact, I know he does because I watched the movie. And by the way, you should hopefully know by now because, spoilers. But yeah, anyway, I like to be a little comedic with my synopsis. But yeah, anyway, with that out of the way, I'm going to talk about five, things I like. And as kind of a disclaimer, I just want to point out the things I liked about Gamera Guardian of the Universe. They actually do transfer over into Gamera 2, but because I think, not only do the three Gamera movies have the same creative teams, it's different than like the Showa era Gamera movies, which they had the same creative teams, granted, but there was like varying quality within the Showa era Gamera movies. But with the Gamera, trilogy, it's this they're more like the same type of quality. So I feel it will be like kind of redundant if I kept saying the same things about the special effects, the directing, the writing. So I'm trying to like make sure I talk about things I like, about the whole trilogy as well as specific to this movie I'm talking about. So there are things that will obviously not carry over, but other things like, directing and stuff, and all that, they do carry over. And I do think like the likes I have here, they are very unique to this movie, except for maybe 1 or 2 points. But yeah, for the record of this trilogy, I'm kind of like my likes for the most part carry over. So, without further ado, let's talk about the first thing I like, and this is the one that definitely carries over to the other two movies, and that is the kaiju design. I did not, say who designed the monsters last time. Let me look it up real quick. I should have had this up, a while ago. I should have had this, you know, like done and ready. Shit, I'm trying to find the production. The wiki is failing me hard, and if that's a bad sign. Uh, let's try IMDb again. I should have had this pulled up already. Shoot. It's my fault. I should have just went and looked up the, designer already. Okay. I think I got it. So, Tomo, yeah, Tomo Hawaguchi, he's the creature creator according to IMDb. And I just gotta say, I love his designs, for the kaiju. They are very intricate, very detailed, but they also have a great silhouette. That makes them easily distinguishable from each other. Like you can tell Gamera and Gauss and Gamera and Legion completely different from each other just by, silhouettes alone. It's a very great design work. And I also gotta give props to Shinichi Wakasa, who's the suit maker for the Gamera trilogy. Uh, I'm pretty sure, but I want to double check, but I hope I'm right with when I say that. No, he's the suit maker of just this movie. So, okay, I stand corrected. But I'm hoping Tomo Hawaguchi is the creature creator. Okay, for the first two movies, Tomo. All right, so okay. Sorry about this hiccup. I should have stated this better, but yeah. Anyway, Tomo Haguchi, created the designs for both, this movie and the last movie, but not Gamera 3. And Shinichi Wakasa, suit maker for, Gamera 2 only, according to IMDb. IMDb also might be wrong. Wouldn't surprise me. But for the record, Shinichi Wakasa would also has credits as suit maker for, you know, according to IMDb, some of the Heisei Godzilla movies, the last three Heisei Godzilla movies, the Rebirth of Monster trilogy, uh, most of the Millennium Godzilla movies, with the exception of GMK, which is very interesting. And of course, the Ultraman fan in me would be amiss to say, not talk about Ultraman Tiga. And I believe Ultraman the Ultimate Hero, which, is the most amazing movie ever. But it's not mentioning it here, which is weird. It's not mentioning it on IMDb. It says Suitmaker on Ultraman Tiga, but I am like 99% sure he was also Suitmaker for Ultraman the Ultimate Hero or Ultraman Powered. But anyway, it's still, I really want to say it's really great work, on both of them. Not only, like, the designs are very unique, very detailed, and just so cool looking. And the suit, like, and the suit makers do a great job translating those designs onto, the big screen. It's really awesome. But anyway, without gushing over that part too much, let's talk about another point, and that is this movie has. Okay, this is gonna be. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to decide which point I want to talk about next. I think I'm going to talk about the humor. I really like some of the humor bits. Now, granted, this movie is not a comedy, but it has some, you know, like humorous moments. Some moments of levity, and they're just kind of funny. They're not like the modern day Marvel movie quips. No, they're just funny. It's more situational humor. That's what I like about the humor here. We got Osaka, who is returning from the previous movie, but he has a more minor appearance. But anyway, as kind of like a beer factory security guard, and he in fact, interacts with one of the like smaller legion bugs, the man-sized legion, insects or whatever they're called. But yeah, the smaller legion, he, you know, like bumps into one of them, and we also get a funny clip of his, police interview where nobody believes him, and then he's just like, not again. Yeah, like, because he, first encountered Gauss in the last movie, so it's kind of just this very comedic thing of, why does this thing always keep happening to me? What did I do? Another funny bit was when they were looking up the Gamera website, and I don't think this was how computers work or the internet worked. I mean, it would be funny if that's how it did work. So okay, it's obviously this movie took it was in the 90s. It's not like the internet we have today. So, but they're looking at a website that's tracking Gamera and sort of rumors, and and that's how we find out about uh how, or I should say, how the characters in this movie find out about Asagi Kusanagi, who also makes a return in this movie. I believe she's the only other major character from the first movie that returns for this movie. But anyway, I don't want to talk about the human cast too much. Even though there is a pretty much a different human cast, I do want to say it's still really great. They're still still feel like humans. I just I feel like the things I would say that are about this movie, like about last movie's human cast transfers over to this movie's human cast. Might have to talk about the human cast in the next movie because I feel like it's a bit different. But anyway, I just feel like they have a similar enough quality, even though they're definitely different characters. Still, still similar enough. Again, in my opinion, where I don't feel like talking about it again. But anyway, back onto the scene. So anyway, after um, let's see, it's Midori. The thing about IMDb is that it doesn't have the information I'm looking for. you know, shoot. Yeah. Yeah, IMDb is not the most faithful website, as you might have heard from this podcast. I swear, me looking stuff up on the spot is what really sets apart. But anyway, I'm gonna have to Google it. Midori. Yep. Okay. I'm making sure I got it right. So we got character Midori and Hanami. She has to leave because of Officer. Let's see. Uh. No. Okay. Where is it? Eh, man, like, I'm sorry, guys. I apologize. But, okay. It's just I gotta rant a little bit. The IMDb doesn't have all the pictures of the actors up, so it's hard for me to really tell who's, who, and I'm already horrible with names, so I should have had this looked up already. Apologies. But anyway, and it really sets off the, mood I was in with the humor. Man, I should really start editing my podcast, but I won't. But anyway, Midori Hanami, who's played by Miki Mizuno, has to leave to, I believe, meet with Colonel Watarase. Yeah, I'm sorry, Watarase, who is played by Toshiyuki Nagashima, and she leaves behind her, I believe, colleague Obitsu, who is a Hokkaido engineer. Which that's a weird. I want to point out that is weird to put on the credits as NTT. Obitsu NTT Hokkaido engineer. Like, why not just leave the name? But anyway, she leaves her colleague, her friend, like Obitsu, who is played by Mitsu Fukikoshi, behind with the website, and that I believe their boss or someone, their senior who shoot, I should have looked it up, but man, IMDb not great. And what sucks is that he is like a notable actor in the movie, but I think I got him. Okay. Uh, Nojiri. Nojiro. Okay. So Midori leaves Hatani with Nojiri, who's played by Kawaru. I'm sorry, Yusuke Kawazu, who you may know from Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 as Professor Omae. Oh, and I'm sorry, Nojiri, 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 yeah, Nojiri. Blah. I should rename this podcast from John versus Film to John Fails at Pronunciations. But anyway, you know, Midori leaves Obitsu with Nojiri, and Nojiri's like, "Oh, hey, let's take a look at this website. See, what it says, because I think the website's in English, and Obitsu can't read English, but uh, Nojiri, he doesn't know how to work technology, so somehow the website crumples up like a web paper, like a piece of paper, and he's just like, "Hey, wait, what happened? Was this supposed to happen?" And Obitsu just is like, just sitting there groaning, like, like, you know, it's just like such a comedic moment, even though I don't think that's not how internet works. But anyway, the last comedic moment has to do with Midori's, parents, specifically her father. Okay, so parents, I believe they run a pharmacy, and their, living space is like right above their pharmacy. I'm pretty sure, because that's how we kind of see it. The layout of Midori's home. But anyway, her coworker, Obitsu, arrives, and the father is just staring Obitsu down. And Midori comes like, "Oh, hey, yep, come on in." And Midori's father starts to follow Obitsu before the mother, like, still talking to a customer, like, not even looking away from the customer whatsoever, just yanks back the father. Just like, "No, no, leave her be." I love that comedic moment where he's just like very protective. He's about to go and follow, but yeah, you know Midori's mother is just like, "Nah, you know And like she doesn't say anything about it. Again, she's like not looking away from the customer. She's just, like she's still talking, about what the customer should do. She just, like grabs him, like how a mother would just grab, a child without looking, to make sure the child doesn't hurt themselves. I'm talking about like a little child. I hope you get what I'm trying to get. But what's great is that this isn't the only time that happens. If it happened once, that's funny enough. But later on, we see, Wadarase's here, and Midori's, living space as well. I think they said it was her room, but and they even, I think it was Radarase who mentioned that it's like, hey, isn't it a little, weird, for two guys to be in your room? I'm sure your father's not exactly happy with that. And Midori's like, well, your father can't have, his way all the time. And then we see Midori's father trying to go up the stairs very slowly and sneakily before the wife, his wife pops out, and she drags him back from the stairs and he's still holding on to the railing, before he ultimately lets go. It's very funny. Very funny. Next up is I want to talk about the increase in stakes of this movie. Particularly, like, I will get to Legion in a little bit, but I just want to say Gauss was a big threat on his own, and it did put a threat to Japan. But the threat here is at a much bigger stake. While it's still primarily just Japan's, focus, the danger is increased. Uh, the collateral damage is increased. There's more. There's more destruction. There we go. Like the outcome. I guess the threat is more destructive than one Gauss on its own. I'm saying one Gauss on its own because we know from next movie what happens, but I'm talking about Advent of Legion right now. So, but anyway, we get the increase of stakes by not just, the damage that the new threat causes, but we also get to see Gamera really beaten up in this movie. Uh, like he was beaten up quite a bit in the last movie with Gauss. Like he got some noticeable cuts and some damage from the military stupidly attacking him. But here he gets his, crap wrecked. Like, there's this fight on this airfield, and the helicopter's trying to leave you know, with civilians trying to escape the city, and Gamera's trying to stop it. And we see the damage on Gamera is just so major. I mean, there's a part of Gamera's shell that's like taken out, and we see like the inside of his shell. Gamera gets beaten up, and right after Gamera actually takes the pod, you know, straight up, face first, you know, and he's left pretty much lifeless. And the and just to give you like an example, this pod, this big flower, it launches its seed up to space. The force of this, the explosion is that of a nuclear bomb, a big atomic bomb. And Gamera took that straight up, and that left him pretty much lifeless. And people think that he was dead, and his, he's just covered in like ash and, like burnt scar and tissue. It's just like he was really beaten up in this movie, and that's like a great way to increase the stakes is to beat up your hero more. And this will lead me on to my next point, which is Legion itself is a very interesting and unique kaiju, and I love how we learn more about it as the movie goes on. So, what's interesting about Legion is that while this is not the first, outer space threat Gamera has ever faced, I mean, Look at Giron, Beerus, Zigra. This is the first time we actually get to see Gamera fight insect monster, an insect monster from space. But what really makes Legion really cool is not necessarily the how it gets spawned little legions or the attacks, but just like how it mimics the like they mentioned like the symbiotic relationship, uh, or like natural relationship it has with this flower. Like how they tie it into ants, having to feed the like this mushroom, in the wild, and how the mushroom, you know, needs the ants, but at the same time the ants need the mushroom as the mushroom provides, viable, shelter or whatever. Yeah, it's like the symbiotic relationship. I think that's the right term. Symbiotic relationship. And that's what's happening here with, if it was just, the giant bug monster himself, that's, that would be cool on its own. But the fact, it's tied in with this mammoth flower, and I say that deliberately because this flower is actually based on an episode of Ultra Q, which that and the flower is called Mammoth Flower. So you know, it's really cool how they bring their influence from Ultra Q into this movie and bring that into, but still make it its own by having this symbiotic relationship with Legion. It's very cool, and also the fact we get to see Legion beat the crap out of Gamera is like really chilling in a sense, because we've seen you know because we want to root for Gamera, but the fact Legion has like so many different attacks is really cool, and also the fact the little legions are kind of a threat to individual humans, and also I love the fact that they like their food source is like glass. They eat silicon, but like man-made silicon. They, specifically go for, glasses, radios, stuff like that. It's just a very cool kaiju. Really love it. And for the final thing that I like about this movie is that there is a sense of unity with the people of Japan and the military with Gamera in this movie. And I think that part of it is that there's like a lot of one-off minor characters and extras in this movie that shows kind of more just like, oh, this isn't just, we're not just following a small group of characters and caring for them. We're seeing Japan. We're seeing everybody getting, impact. And it's not to say that the first Gamera movie didn't have extras. It had plenty of extras, but there's like a lot of extras in one space that makes it feel more populated. And when we get to see little moments between a couple of random soldiers talking, or just a mother and daughter you know talking about Gamera's status, or even father and son talk no, like the mother and daughter talking about Gamera, seeing looking at Gamera's lifeless body back in Sendai, I believe it was, with everybody else, with fire pits, where people are displaced, and all they can do is look up at Gamera and hope that Gamera gets back up. Or the fact, we're in a bathhouse, with people looking on, watching TV, and this kid asks his dad, like, is Gamera going to come to save him? Or, or like, asks him about Gamera. I don't remember which part of the movie it was, but it's just, again, this great sense of unity. And I love how at the end of the movie, you know, because here's the thing, throughout the movie, there's still this sort of, like, even though Gamera defeated Gauss in the last movie, humanity still has this distrust of Gamera. They're still not sure if they can really trust Gamera because Gamera is still this mystery, monster, giant monster that could ultimately destroy them. So they're still very weary of Gamera, but they end up helping Gamera, like the military. I love it seeing the military help the giant monster, giant hero, like fight alongside them. It's like it's one of my favorite things to see in tokusatsu. I loved it when I got to see a little bit of it in Game of the Monsters. It felt so refreshing to see humanity fighting alongside with nature or the good monster, you know. And I love seeing it in like I love seeing the finale of Ultra 7 when we see the Ultra Garrison fighting alongside Ultra 7 for the final battle. I love those moments, and we get it here. And I also think it helps that they were able to, you know, Dai was able to rope in the Japanese self defense force to actually really help out with this movie to not only portray them accurately, but it feels like a lot of, the extras were actual soldiers in the Japanese self defense force. And I love the fact that at the end, after Legion's defeated, the bunch of soldiers are looking at Gamera and they end up just saluting Gamera. It's something very awe-inspiring to see. I absolutely love it. But anyway, those were the 5 things I like about Gamera 2 Advent of Legion. And let's talk about the things I dislike or have criticisms on. Again, I will say, some of the points are nitpicky, but unlike the last movie where I feel like I had a nostalgic heavy nostalgic bias that I probably just couldn't get over. I don't think I had that much with this because even though I did watch this movie as a kid, it wasn't as much. I didn't really own this movie until like high school, I want to say. And even then, I questioned you know, the legitimacy of the quality because I did buy it at G Fest. And, G Fest is known for some of their bootlegs. But anyway, there, I will say before real quick, a neat thing is I was actually lucky enough to see this movie in a theater. Like, I actually got to see this movie in a theater back in the early 2000s. Man, that feels so long ago. Like, I was a little kid, 9, 10 years old, when I got to see this movie. And it was with this movie. It was this movie and Gamera 3, that I got to see these movies be played in the theater in like Syracuse. And I will, and part of like the thing is the Gamera movies weren't particularly available, or I just didn't know where to get them back in when I was a little kid. So they weren't available, but it's the fact I got to see sequels to the Gamera movie that I actually own, and I got to take my friends to go see it with me. It was a really cool experience, and the fact that I was lucky enough that the first time I got to experience these movies was in an actual theater. That's fucking amazing. Like really fucking amazing when you think about it. And by the, like like just how lucky could I been? I wish I could remember the experience a bit more, but yeah, that was like so cool to see. But anyway, with that said, even though I have, this great memory of seeing it in a theater, the fact that I didn't watch it as much as a kid and only, and before I actually even get to own it, I only got a chance to rent it on Netflix back when Netflix used to be a DVD rental website and not just a streaming service. You know, even I still feel I was a bit more critical on this movie than I was in the last movie. But again, I did throw in some more like nitpicky funny moments. I think the first two are definitely the more nitpicky, and I'm just putting this as a thing I dislike, just for a thing I dislike. But the last three, yeah, I think are legit criticisms. But again, even though they're criticisms, they are ultimately minor criticisms. With that said, the first thing I want to talk about is the English voice acting in the beginning. I felt it was a bit out of place, you know, but granted, I think it was unintentionally hilarious. Just because the thing is, I don't think I think this movie could have benefited without that English voice acting at the beginning. I think they should have just stuck with, you know, native Japanese voice act, you know, like native Japanese actors looking on, but no, it's supposed to, like represent Houston, NASA, on the satellite. But it's just some of the delivery of these, actors. It was like you could tell they weren't really actors. I know that sounds mean, but just the way their accent, it's just like we gotta get this out to the public. Like, it's like you don't really seem too concerned. Like, this is supposed to be kind of like the threat of the movies coming to our planet. The tone should be like, "Oh, what's this?" It's kind of like here's the thing: we got some bit of seriousness with the opening of the original movie, where that opened up with the plutonium ships getting hit by Gamera's, Gamera's atoll or whatever. But here it removes some of the seriousness from the situation by like, hey, what's that? Man, that's a big object. We gotta warn the public. Acting like that is one of those like I'm taking out of the seriousness and I'm laughing at how silly these accents sound. Granted, I don't think for a lot of native Japanese speakers, which this movie was aimed towards a Japanese audience, not an international audience per se. It might have been fine for them, but for me as a native English speaker, I can't help but laugh at it. You know. But anyway, it's a very minor point, and I do, even though I think ultimately it would have benefited the movie more if it was that part was just reworked or cut out. Even I think it was still very entertaining. Next point is that I mentioned Osaka. He was the inspector in the last movie, and he was, a beer factory security guard here. I just want to say the thing I disliked is that he only has a minor appearance in this movie. Just that one moment of him, those two scenes, I should say. One where he, encounters the Legion bug, and then with the interview. That's it with we see from him, and it's like, yo, Kaneko-san, you're cutting out the best character in the trilogy. What's the matter with you? Joking aside, I still was like, oh man, I wish we could see more of Osaka. Sorry, had a little hiccup there. I love seeing Osaka in these movies. I love seeing the actor who portrays Osaka. He's very entertaining. But I can understand why he's also not in the movie. It's a minor gripe. With that said, here's three more. Like, we're on to the final three things I have some criticisms of, and I'm actually going to say these are more legitimate criticisms. First off, so there's this, you know, moment where they actually give Legion his name, or as they say, Legion, you know, by quoting a verse from the Bible. I forgot what's for. I'm not religious whatsoever. Um, but anyway, one of the soldiers is talking to you know Colonel Colonel Wadarase, you know, and he mentions the birth, like the verse. I'm going to try to read it, find it. Uh, it's like Mark 5 120 or no, Mark 5 uh 9 or what? I don't know. I don't read Bible, but anyway, the quote is, "My name is Legion, for we are many." You know. But anyway, they throw in that quote from the Bible to give Legion his name because there are many Legion. Many of the bugs, and they kind of and then there's this big bug and all that. They act as kind of one hive unit. So I get why he's called Legion, but I think the Christianity symbolism, it felt slapped on, just to give Legion his name, and it was not set up well within the movie. Like, take the last movie, for example, with Gauss and Gamera. We actually get an in movie explanation for where they got their names, because with Gamera, when he's in that island atoll shape, there's this little, there comes this, metal tablet with some markings on it, and it actually gets translated to say, the last hope, Gamera, Gauss, the shadow of evil, and we find those names before we, you know, names out pretty early on in the movie, and then it's only later on in the movie are they called Gamera and Gauss, respectively. Here, there's like no, like, I'm not even saying the movie should have have been used with heavy Christian symbiote, symbolism, but I think it should have been set up a bit more, because we never got a sense that oh, maybe that soldier was Christian. Maybe he, it's like, or maybe they should have pulled more from the Bible, to kind of tell end of time story or whatever. I think, I'm just saying, I think they could have done more with it than just slap it on the movie. In the movie, just kind of give Legion his name. And that's kind of I'm going to point to Evangelion for a second, because the thing is, there is a lot of Christian symbolism, even though they've stated that there's no real deep meaning, like Christian meaning to it, like religious meaning to it, because they thought the creators of Evangelion, they're like the Christianity symbolism. They just felt it was cool. Even with that mindset, they still put the meanings into their works, and they take full advantage of the Christian symbology, symbolism. They don't just use it for the enemies, the angels. It's ingrained with a lot of the anime itself, with the name Evangelion, with you know the first angel Adam and Lilith, the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's a lot of Christianity, a lot of Christianity mythology in the show. But in this movie, they kind of just put that mythology and slap it into one part of the movie and just be like, yep, just to give Legion his name, and it was not set up properly. It's not like an over glaring flaw, but I do think that it was a missed opportunity to go more into this, the Christianity mythology or symbolism, instead of just, or at the very least, build it up so it doesn't feel like it comes, you know, the one soldier quoting the Bible comes from nowhere. Uh, Second to last point of the dislikes is that I the special effects are great. In fact, I would even argue they are an improvement of the last movie. With that said, one of the battles takes place in Hokkaido, and I think there was a missed opportunity with the movie to actually do like a snow battle. Because the movie takes place during winter and Hokkaido is covered in snow. And we see snow throughout a lot of the movie. I think they could have done more with the snow, and I think it's a shame we didn't get, more use of this winter setting in this movie. Granted there's still, snow on the ground, but I think they could have done more with this winter setting for the special effects. Maybe had, emulate some snowing. That would have been a cool fight to see, Gamera, like, see that fight while it's snowing. Not blizzard snowing, but yeah, just seeing, like, you know, dust of, specks of snow coming, blowing from the roofs, or just snow blowing through the air to give this cold feeling. They could have done more with the setting. That's my only gripe with the special effects. I mean, other than that, it's, again, fantastic, brilliant, better than the last movie. But I think they could have done just a bit, gone just a bit further with the winter setting. And then for the last point, I think the plot overall is a bit too focused on Legion and what Legion's up to, and not so much on what Gamera's doing or what happens to Gamera. And that's becomes, a bit like, I feel like Gamera gets pretty ignored a lot in the first act of the movie until Gamera, like, for the most part, he is mentioned here and there in the movie, but it's only after Gamera appears and fights Legion that, he gets to be more involved with the plot. And it's not to say there isn't any focus on Gamera. I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as, like, Gamera versus Barugan, where it was Barugan's movie featuring Gamera. No, Gamera still has a, is pretty featured, you know, like, importantly in this movie, and has moments of his own with that, and there's still, like, a lot of talk about Gamera. It's not Gamera's being completely ignored, but I think there's some aspects where I think Gamera could have had a bit more focused, on in the plot, especially since, how Gamera gets revived. It's not explained well in this movie. Granted, they do fix it on the next movie, but I'm talking specifically in this movie, how Gamera gets revived or Gamera gets that, boost from the earth. It's not fully just, explained. But it's kind of a double-edged sword because it's, again, some of the ambiguity. I actually don't mind, some ambiguity, about how Gamera's doing it. I mean, just this unknown being, but I don't think it's. I think it wouldn't have been a problem if there was just a slightly bit more focus on Gamera in this movie, like, and even focus on Gamera and Legion in this movie, because, again, I think a lot of the characters are mostly focused on Legion. But anyway, those are my the things I like and dislike. So we're gonna go over to my overall thoughts, and yeah, overall, this is, I will be honest, this is probably my least favorite movie in the trilogy. However, it is far from being a bad movie. In fact, I still think it is a fantastic film that carries over the strengths from the first one. And I can even understand why some say this is their favorite movie in the trilogy. I do not blame them. They are very much valid in thinking that this is, their favorite, or they think it's the best movie in the trilogy. I do think the movie could have gone a bit further with some of the things that it presents and could have focused on Gamera a bit more as well. But it's still an overall great entry into this spectacular trilogy of movies. And yeah, that's about it for this review of Gamera 2 Advent of Legion. Next week, we'll be finishing off the Gamera trilogy with The Revenge of Iris. Make sure to stay tuned for that. And anyway, if you made it this far, I also want to mention that this podcast is available on, you know, a lot of popular podcast hosting sites. I should probably make a list for me to read, but it's on the big main ones like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and it's also primary host is podbean.com. And if you are listening this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, press the like button, press the bell button. Leave a dislike if you don't like this, video. But I would really appreciate a comment telling me what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. But anyway, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have an amazing day. Take care.